Hello, this is Ken Ferry with this week's Boots in the Field. This week's question has come around cheapening up our seed expense, especially on seed corn. I was getting a number of questions about eliminating traits, switching back to more conventional corn, not paying for the expensive traits, and looking at different ways to save on seed cost itself, moving down from that $300 a bag seed corn into something a little more reasonable itself. And when it comes to traits, that's something that I think every grower can kind of look at his own area and manage around that. We talk about corn borer, for instance. Corn borer has been somewhat annihilated in the country, not because of corn borer in your field or traded corn in your field, but the fact that traded corn has been used in a 5-state area long enough that we just don't see much pressure. Now, with that said, where we had non-traded corn on some of these farms now 2 years, we're actually back to spraying some of those for corn borer. So the corn borer will come back, and if you move from traded corn to non-traded corn, you've got to add scouting back into that picture, and you got to add spray for corn borer if they're going to be an issue. And I think, and in some areas, that's a hit or miss, but you can't let corn borer destroy the field itself. Kind of the same on rootworm. We've seen a definite decrease in rootworm pressure due to the large amount of June rains we had in 2015, and guys are questioning pulling the traded out. If we pull that traded out, especially in corn on corn, we probably should put some protection back in from an insecticide standpoint, because once we figure out we got a problem, we don't have a rescue. With that said, if we move down in the Tuscola, Lovington area, Winchester area, where we still had a lot of rootworm pressure this past year, then it's a little bit harder to pull that trait out from there. So pulling the trait in or out of a hybrid, trying to cheapen the cost up, and long as you're going to manage that weakness that you just created, that's not a big issue. What does concern me, though, is a number of guys talking about switching companies, switching brands, and planting a brand they know nothing about, but because it's $50 or $75 a bag cheaper. That scares me a little bit. If you've been diligent on trying to pick your hybrids based off of what you know about hybrid characteristics, its ear type, its leaf structure, how it handles population, how it handles disease, and you abandon that and you go to trying to find the cheapest seed out there, then we start to worry about quality of the seed, we start to worry about grading of the seed, and does that hybrid perform? Just looking at a brochure that says this hybrid's going to do this and you have no experience with the hybrid, that scares me. Because we sit here and we go through hundreds of thousands of acres of yield maps, and the first thing that shows up that makes the biggest difference in fields as far as yield goes is the hybrid. You pick a hybrid that's 50 bushel behind the one you would have planted, you can't buy it cheap enough to fix that problem. So if you call me and you say, I want to switch to brand X because I had it in my plot, it looked good, I like what it looked like, it's quite a bit cheaper, and I know its yield response is close enough to what I've been planting that it's going to be economically more feasible to plant, that's different, because now you're talking about experience with that hybrid. When you call me and you went to a meeting somewhere and you can get this seed X amount cheaper, and the rep told you that this seed is the same as the seed you're planting, now I start to get nervous. That's a situation where you're making a big move on something that you're not 100% comfortable with. Take those cheaper hybrids, put it out there, see how they plant, see how they emerge, see how the grading is, all that, and then make your decisions from there versus making huge swings to genetics that you don't know. You can't get some of the seed cheap enough based on how it performs out there in the field. And it's tough enough picking between the hybrids that you have experience with. Picking and making big moves on hybrids you have no experience with usually leads to a disaster. So keep her straight there as far as what you're doing. Make sure you're making these decisions based off of experience, or at least somebody you really trust that has that experience to share with you itself. Hope that helps. We'll talk to you next week.